All right, last presentation for today in this room. No pressure. I would like to welcome Joseph to the room. I got to see his presentation and I'm super excited because I think if you've been with this room all day, it's kind of an amazing recap of putting it all together. So, ladies and gentlemen, Joseph.
So the presentation today is enabling stakeholder success. Let me just go to this real quick. A little bit about me. I've been some sort of architect for most of my life. Started out, believe it or not, in accounting. A little funny story. I had an accounting professor that said, we took the Myers-Briggs, which was mentioned earlier, and said, if you go into accounting, you are either going to drive everybody crazy or you are going to go crazy. I went anyways. And what I ended up doing was moving from that into how do I make accounting better, which is where my career started in architecture. How do I architect systems? How do I change things to make things better? The lumps along the way were several threats of you may not be here anymore if you keep trying to change things. That was early, thank goodness. But it started in accounting, an accounting mind, a system set mind that didn't like to be a system set mind. Anyways, so I moved quickly into consulting, very young, 23, 24, putting in ERP systems. So I needed to understand, what do you need to do better? Because putting in ERP systems is just accounting. Why would you put one in? Why do you need this? Well, there were several reasons. First reason was, this dates me, was Y2K. I have to have it for the dates. Well, it drove so much revenue. And then the .com craze. That's where I learned where it was important to understand what they were doing. Because a lot of people would put them in and say, I'm going, and I saw crazy .coms. I saw semiconductors being designed for .coms. And that was my first realization that no matter what you're doing, you're still running a business behind the technology. And that's where I fell in love with business architecture. At that time, it wasn't even business architecture. That was pre-guild, pre-defined. My experience goes broad and not as deep. So I've been in everything from ITSM, ERPs, CRMs, and most recently, several years ago, governance, risk, and compliance. So the view is huge. And that's where I come from. I do have a passion for providing value. That's what this is going to be about. It is going to be a pragmatic walkthrough of how to leverage business architecture to provide value to different levels of stakeholders, all the way through, if I can get through it. Again, 25 years, certified business architect, member of the Chief Architects Network, most recently, and moving forward. And I am the director of business architecture and strategic insights. Here's something unique. I sit in the strategy organization. And let me tell you, it's a blessing. I'm not confined by IT. I'm not confined by operations, which is a lot of places where business architects sit. They sit either in IT or under the COO. That's just factual. I am blessed to be in the strategy organization. A lot of this is going to look at how it's done from the strategy side. How do I do that? And related to IT and operations, completing that picture. Make sense? Great. So what are we going to cover? Interesting story. I went and I was like, business architecture is great. What's strategy? So I went to the IASP and said, I'm going to go to their conference and see what they say strategy is. So we're going to look at that, the 5 domains of strategy, which is really interesting to me because I've applied business architecture components to it as I see them. This is my view, right? And how they work. Then we're going to talk about this. This is my favorite subject, critical capabilities. It was in the previous one. What's a critical capability? And how do they apply to strategies? And then the how, this is big, initiatives. How does that come in? And then ultimately, impact and alignment, engagement from top down or from bottom up. And then ultimately, show me the money. How do I measure the value in all this? Where does this come from? What does it do for me? What does it do for the people I'm talking to? So we'll start here. Any questions so far? Great. We're going to start with the 5 domains of strategy. And I can go through these, but you formulate strategy, then you plan it, and then you execute it. And basically, it's very simple. Not really. And then you govern it. I took a different perspective on govern. To govern, you measure. That's how you know your strategy is working. Am I meeting my KRIs, my KPIs? I would say KRIs first because I have a passion for risk. KPIs and OKRs. That's how I really know. That's how I would measure it because that's what people care about. And look at that big gray circle. Stakeholder engagement. That is common all the way through that. You cannot do any of this in silos. And it's our job, or I feel like it's my team's job or whatever, to break those silos. And these are methods that I've used and others that I've just tried and come up with to help. So let's talk about leveraging business capabilities for strategy. Ooh, okay. What I need to do, define and rank them. I'm going to ask you a simple question, and I'm going to sit down because this is not a simple question. How many of you can say you've identified your critical business capabilities? 1-ish, 2, 3. How many of you can even define what a business capability, critical business capability is? Truly define it. We got 1. 1 out of the whole room. Why? Because it's an interesting language. What is a capability? What does it mean? And I say this out of personal experience. Went in to talk to an executive and said, we need to align your stuff to capabilities. And he said, what? What's a capability? I was like, oh my goodness. How do I get past this? Because a capability, I give him the definition. Capability is what the business does at its core, and it hardly ever changes. That is not going to work. So a little defeated, I went back and said, how do I define this? How do I speak his language? Right? This is how. What does he like? Well, we live in Texas, and we've got several religions, and one of those happens to be football. It's a religion. It's not a sport. So I said to him, so I didn't even ever take this back to him. I just said, how do I explain it in football? And I did it. It's a different language. But if you go to football, if you don't know football, that's fine. Give me something else. I'll try to relate it for you. The point is you have to relate. So I said, football. What is football made of? And you can watch it. If you don't watch it, I'm sorry, but I do. And I like hockey better personally, and I'm a Dallas Stars fan. Stop booing now. Anytime you hear them talk about football, what do they talk about? Offense, defense, and special teams. Those are level 1 capabilities to football. Now, take level 1 capability out. That's it, right? And then I decompose the whole map, and this is available to you. This is business architecture in the language of football. Level 2 capabilities, org units, value streams, and processes. And how does that whole thing in football? So if I'm trying to explain to somebody what this is, I can bring this up. By the way, I can put it in soccer because I've been asked to. I can put it in gardening if I want to. But the point is that it's 10 different languages for 10 different people. And the skill here is understanding it where you can put it in that language. Anyways, with that basis, we say we need to rank them on importance. By the way, that's one of the most difficult decisions you'll have because everybody's going, mine's the most important. Back to empathy. What is most important? Most important to who? The organization. What's most important? The organization. Understanding the strategy helps you, and I will never define what the most important critical capabilities are. I'll simply go, according to your strategy, these seem to support that strategy the best. Information. And I'll say this more than once. I was sitting in a business architecture guild conference 3 years ago, and it dawned on me what my actual job was. I'm an information broker and a thought provoker. That is it. I have no decisions. I'm just there to make people discuss things. It's the greatest job in the world. It's fantastic, but I have to back it. And then, of course, once you get that done, big discussion, by the way, you need to assess it. Oh, what are you going to assess it on? I want to assess. I hear it all the time. We need to do a business capability assessment. I hear this from people in the world, not in my place, right? In the world. What are you going to assess it on? Operational efficiencies? Are they semi-automated? Are they fully automated? That's one. What about your risk? How much is your company at risk? That's another. Oh, let's go against the market. That's another. There's so many, and each one of those goes to different places. The COO wants that one. Your chief risk officer wants that one. And your market competition's your growth and defending your turf. CEOs like that one. So just real quick, and I'm not going to go over much. This is an important slide. These are business capabilities from the guild. I forgot to put the marking on there, but that's what the double stars are. You'll see it. But the most important thing is these are all level 1 capabilities, offense, defense. And this is what I did. I went and put a pseudo ACME company together. It's called ACME. And these are the capabilities that ACME finds important. I built this after an IASP conference where I saw this in action. I'm like, I got to build this because I need this prototype to show not just the power of capabilities, but the power of strategy, information, and AI. This is not about AI, but you're going to see a little. Okay. So anyways, that bottom statement is really important. High level and understood by many. Granularity can kill if you're having strategy discussions and capabilities. Granularity, it gets too let's say, too academic when I start going way down. Now, I do need to go down later, different stakeholders. Granularity kills at the strategy level. The other thing is, shockingly, maybe you don't call them business capabilities. Maybe you walk in and say, this is what we do, right? I found that highly effective because I'm a business architect. We want to talk about business capabilities. Now define business. Well, don't we do these things? This is what we do. If it's not what we do, I need to know so I can go find out what we do. So what's the first engagement look like in the strategy world? Go talk to people and do a maturity. This maturity assessment is just an example of the kind of conversations you need to have from a strategy standpoint. I'll just pull one example. Look at partner management, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. Says, we are way behind in the performance of and management of our partners. Where do you get that information? Oh, there's like 28 different places. But you got to find the right person. And you got to have the trust to get there. Or you have to ask the right questions. What keeps you up at night is one of my favorite questions. When you go home, what keeps you up at night? That's your gap. That's where people are. What keeps you up at night? Oh my God, we're falling behind here. Find the right places to have those conversations. Build the trust. This is kind of built on what we had last time. Build the trust to get there. Get up and walk around, whether it's virtually or physically. I spend maybe half my day at my desk. I have the luxury of that. Walk around building relationships. If you need to do that virtually, ping somebody. Say, I have a question. Start gathering that information and holding on to it. Casual conversations give the best information. I will say that. Problem with casual conversations is you cannot make it formal without somebody's permission. So from the casual conversations, how do I add value to what they just told me? What can I tell them that will help them with that conversation, right? So this is just an example of what a maturity assessment looks like. And I use this because these are kind of tools. And it helps. Now, from the strategy standpoint, what do we do next? I'll go back to the presentation this morning. I didn't ask the question I wanted to ask when he was talking about technical debt, right? Do you ever align technical debt and how it impedes your strategic objectives? That's the language of strategy, right? You look at this, I've aligned this to strategic objectives. Basically, here's where my strategic objectives are. Are these things really impeding those, right? So that's the first build. And then I did this. I leveraged AI. Just took those 3 slides and said, by the way, based on these slides, provide me an overall strategy for a pseudo company and call the company ACME. Grok 4.0. Look at what it said just on that information alone. There's a human aspect to this, right? The human aspect is, are those numbers real? No. But can I put numbers in there? The other thing is, if I take that to somebody, where did you get this? I used AI. You're going to get 2 reactions. Couldn't you do it yourself? Or, this is almost it. Cool. Here's why. I feel personally, and talking to all the people that I work with, lots of friends that are IT senior directors and so forth, and lots of people I talk to, AI shockingly can diffuse threat. Because guess what? You didn't come up with that. Some bot came up with that is completely theoretically, completely objective. Let's start the conversation here. Now tell me what your real strategy is. Okay. So does that make sense? Any questions so far? Am I moving too fast? Because I can talk fast and I got a lot. Anything? Okay, good. Let's keep going. This is where the architecture comes in. I don't want to give an architecture class. That's not what it's about. But alignment. Align your initiatives to your organizational units. Okay? Then take your organizational units, align it to your capabilities. By the way, that's yet another discussion. The initiatives to org units, that's easy. Go find your EPMO. Shockingly, it's not as easy as it sounds because you find gaps there all the time. And I'll show that in a minute. Secondly, the org unit to capability. Well, gosh. Now I'm speaking the capability language at the higher level. Now I got to go talk to business leaders and say, are you doing these capabilities? Because I can't align it without their permission, right? I can, and I would suggest that. I'd suggest align it first and take it to them and explain it. Instead of going, what are your capabilities? Do work first for them. Oh, I didn't have to do that. Sure. Do more for them. Look at them as the person you're serving. And then your initiatives capabilities. You can see the 3-way connection there, which I'll put on a graph in a second. But initiative capabilities, to me, it's a great place to propose as a business architect. I know the capabilities. I know what the initiative, providing you get the right information about the initiatives, back to the engagement, right? I know what the initiatives should be and what capabilities. Do it, validate it. These are the people that you generally would work with, your EPMO, your business leaders, and your business owners when you get to this level. Why is it important? It does this right there. It's the information to cross the silos, right? I built this model that said I wanted to leave some things out. I didn't show the models because I don't have time to go through it, but basically I use a capability to go, okay, show me all the organizations where this capability exists that don't have this initiative on it. Ooh, value, instant value, alignment. Because I can go, look, we want to accept alternative payments. The red is there for a reason. But our payables and our finance and accounting department don't know about it, only our order team. It's alignment through the capability. Now, there may be others, and you just line them out. You have discussions. You say, no, this doesn't apply to me, but you find the ones the ones they do apply to. Why is that important? I look at this in business architecture. My job is not to tell you what's in the middle of the room. Everybody can see what's in the middle of the room. My job is to tell you what's in the corners. Use this data, use these connections to gather it, and figure out what's in the corners. Now, there's a few other reds up there, but notice the one in HR, and we did this on purpose too, which is you have a capability maturity of 5. You want to keep it at 5. By the way, that's a market differentiator. Why aren't you investing in it? Do you realize that you're not putting anything into, do you really think for a year, 2, 3 years, you're going to maintain that without investing in it? Those are the insights that business architects bring. The information, thought-provoking, ask the questions. Ask the questions. It's alignment. It's alignments using capabilities. So what does that say about a business capability to me? It's a data point by which I can drive alignment and discussions. It's not academic at all. You can call it anything you want. And I know that there are several business architects, you call it function. Don't call it function, that's wrong. But call it capability. But bringing a giant capability map does nothing. It's a pretty picture on a wall. I hear these in my inner circles. We think we need a business capability map. Great, what are you going to do with it? That I go to a house designer and say, I want an architectural diagram of a 3-story house. I'm going to pay for that and do nothing with it. It's the equivalent of saying, it doesn't solve anything. It's a pretty picture on a wall. It's a very expensive one, by the way. Very expensive. It's a lot of engagement. It's not expensive because of the people and the time. It's everybody that has to be in the room to agree on it without any concept of how does it apply to what I'm doing? Where's my value? Where's my value? That's what it's about. And I'm going to tell you a little story, then go to the next slide. Where did I come up with this? It's not on here, but I do want to talk about a little group called, it's called Story. I got to get up. Storyboard.io. Right now, it's not on my slides. That was in Tamara Park. I got this person from Wendy, actually, from her S2E Consulting, from Wendy Keene. And here's what happens. She literally, in my opinion, gives you an analytical guide to empathy. I was like, wait a minute, this looks like a business canvas. Well, yeah, it does. It's analytical guide to empathy. Make everybody else the hero. You heard that today at the very beginning. That was career changing for me on a personal note. When I learned to make everybody else the hero, first of all, I'm going to tell you, it's very relieving. It's freedom when you're not the hero. You're making everybody else the hero. That's my job. If I give you information to make you the hero, I would look it up. She's a fantastic way to look at empathy. Okay. All right. So, and then finally, the hardest discussions. How am I going to measure this? Because everybody says, oh, I can do this. It'll make my operations better. I can do this. It'll make me more efficient. What are the hard ways to do that? KPIs, KRIs. Oh, what? I got to measure this now? Yes. Yes, because this is the language pretty much that drives the information that probably your investors care about. Quite honestly, revenue going up, costs going down, measure. Measure. That's a lot of engagement too. Questions so far? Okay. Show me the money. It's my favorite one. Why is this important? I'm layering my investments in those capabilities based on the maturity. It looks really easy. And these are all the initiatives that I'm doing to do that, right? What stands out here? Stands out to me, the same thing. Put no money in our HR in our human resources capability. We're putting $7 million in our brand management to only go from 3 to 4. We should be 5 plus, right? For one organization. That means I've now aligned everything to say one organization needs $7 million. Are we aware of this? Have we broken the silos with this to where I can understand that? That's what this is about. This is all about breaking down silos with information. It's not about being the hero. Information brokers, thought provokers. We live by that. There's no accountability. I mean, my only accountability is I give bad information. If I give bad information, I'm gone. And here's your KPIs. How do I measure them? What does that do for me? Before I get to that, I want to show this, the beloved golden thread. These are the maps I adored when I was starting mine. I said, wait a minute, what's that? It's a value stream. It's a value stream with 4 steps. I thought this was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And it is. It is to somebody that's in operations. This means everything to everybody in operations. These are the steps. Okay? Wait a minute. What are those? Capabilities. What do those capabilities go to? Those capabilities now are to the people that are making the decisions. Customer information management. By the way, that's level 2 or 3. I don't know. Inquiry. Notice the purple ones? Language management. Why are they purple? Their future state. Who's that important to? Everybody, right? Language management. Okay. And then we layer on in this. Here's where the rubber meets the road. I have all this. Which processes am I worried about now? Now we're diving further down. But what it's done is it's created the connectivity. I can understand at the process level what I'm doing I can talk to each person in this layer. But how do I know who to talk to? Oh, on the value stream, we align your stakeholders. You know who benefits from this? Your change management group. I'm going to go do all this. I'm going to hit these processes, and these are the people I need to be worried about. The groups, at least the roles. That's where it starts. Oh, and now let's layer on the rest. That messed up. The KPIs, and you see those green boxes? Why did that mess up? There we go. See those green boxes? Those are the IT applications. Oh, now I've driven all the way through to the technology that supports the changes, the strategy. That's why they call this the golden thread. It's really just a cross-map value stream in my book. If I say golden thread, I'm accountable for something. So we'll call it a cross-map value stream. Information, information, information. Gathered from I don't know how many different places. To get the processes, I've got to go talk to the business. To get the technology, I got to go talk to IT. The KPIs I know from strategy. The value streams, that's the key. Do you have your base architecture set? I suggest putting it out there very simply and proposing it. We do that. One approach is everything you do as a business architect, you go all the way through the strand. Somebody says, I need a process re-architected. Great. Map that to your value stream. Make sure that value stream is mapped to keep, even if nobody's looking at it. The question will come. It's about being ready for it, not forcing people to understand it. It will come the more value you add. All right, let's leverage AI one more time with all this information. Take the whole slide deck, load it up into Grok. Can you produce a professional strategic plan with a capability and organizational gap analysis? Point out where the company may be misaligned. Sounds crazy, right? That's what I thought. Whoops. That's what I thought. I'll wait for this one. Showing up there? Look at this plan. 7 pages long. 7 pages. All I did was load the slide deck in with the information. The more information you have, and everybody knows this about AI, the more context you provide it, I hope you do, the more context you provide it, the more information you give it, the better it gets. It's just a tool. It's a starting place. So it gives me this pretty document, which is all fine and dandy. But where the rubber meets the road for a business architect is down here. Show me that alignment matrix. Now, look at this. Moderate uplift needed for AI personalization. It starts making suggestions. Starts making suggestions. I'm not saying you have to live by it. I'm saying it makes the suggestions. Points out the gaps. Now, when I did this, I put purposeful gaps in there to see what AI would catch, by the way, right? Let's go down the bottom where the money is. And let's look at our one that we identified, which is brand management. Look what AI said. Whoa, wait a minute. Why don't we pull that back to $500,000? Because it's not a critical capability. It focuses indirect benefits without commitment. That's 10 slides. And that's what we got. Why do we do this? Unbelievable discussion starters. You don't have to show this to anybody. But I can ask that question. I should be able to. And I don't even know who to ask it to. Because guess what? I may not ask it to the person that can answer it. I may need to ask it of somebody to let them ask the question. The strategy of people. Back a few slides ago, I talked about misalignment, and I missed this part of it. When you find something misaligned, like the finance and the payment, AP or whatever, you don't necessarily go to them. You're the person that wants the initiative and say, by the way, these guys are unaware of it. Maybe you should go have the conversation. Unless you want me to facilitate that conversation. That's big. Ask to facilitate the conversation because it brings you to the table. You've brought him something of value that now could bring you to the table. You may have to do it more than twice with one person based on how they are. But the more you provide them these insights, the corners of the room, not the middle, the more you get invited to that table to have those discussions. Let them have them first. Back to the hero. Don't. It's so easy to not be the hero. It's a lot less pressure. Provide the information that make other heroes, and guess what? Eventually, they're going to bring you to the table. I mean, that's the goal. How do I get to the table? How can I be proactive? The more people know that you know, and you're helping them be proactive, eventually they bring you to the table. Now, this comes from years and years of consulting. That's what consulting is. Give them information they can use, and they keep bringing you back. I did that because I had my own company. I had to give good information, so they would keep asking me to come back and consult. I do it now internally, basically. I'm doing anything different. I got out of consulting to get back into consulting. This is the stuff you can use, and it's all about how do you use it with your stakeholders. It's not about, hey, look what I found. That goes back to playground. And when I say it goes back to playground, it goes back to Joey hit this person. That's a tattletale. It goes back to playground mentality. Go to the person that hit the person. Say, go to the person that's going to get value out of it. You will eventually shine. This is a long game, guys. That's the hard part about this. It's not quick. This is a long game. Vision, value, stakeholder success. The more you give them, the more successful they'll be. On that, we'll say the one methodology I always use with this, I don't know where you guys are, is start small, think big, start small, scale fast. Don't try to conquer the world today. Start in little pockets. Start in little pockets. Where's your pockets? Where are your early adopters? Anyways, so that's my how to ensure stakeholder success. Engage them, give them information. Any questions? Wow, no questions. I talk too much. You're okay.
I'll give it right
I'll
back.
take her.
I was just curious if you could speak to the KPIs and how you identify those.
I can for sure. Because I sit in the strategy group, right? You can look at they're different questions. What's important to you, right? Don't use the word KPI. What's important to you? Go back, take that language and associate it to KPI and go present it. Are you saying you want to do this? Because you said this was important to you. Yeah, that's exactly what you've got your KPI. You have to me, the secret's been staying away from the language. Stay away from the language. Stay away from business architecture. I'm business architect. I'm here to help you. Sounds horrible, but it's true. Stay away from the language. Ask them questions, translate it into the language, and then give it back to them. Almost Rosetta Stone-like, if you want to call it that, because everybody has a different language. And it's important to standardize it in your world, bring the languages from others, translate it through and push it back to them. Eventually they start speaking the language because that's what they see. You get this guy's information, it goes to this KPI. You get this guy's information, it goes to this KPI. But they said two totally different things with the exact same intent and meaning. Oh, you mean this? Okay. Oh, you mean this? Okay. Guess what? Now, by default, they're speaking the same language. They just don't know it. They just don't know it. It's hard. I'm not saying this is easy. It's hard because you've got to do a lot of the legwork and a lot of the translating and establish the relationships it takes to establish that language through a common communication without saying, well, we should do it this way. I tried it. Not a good plan. We should do it this way because I'm a certified business architect, or I'm a TOGAF architect, or I'm this. We should do it this way. Yeah, we should. I'm the only one that needs to know that. I just need you to tell me what you are thinking so I can translate it. And now we're in one language. It's a different way. It's a long, long game. It's not something you can get done quickly. But if you stick with it, have the energy, it definitely takes a lot of that, and some positivity, you start to understand your business stakeholders, they start to understand you, and then, most importantly, they start to understand each other. Silo breakers. Anyways, any other questions?
So, is that on? Okay. So when I ran a PMO, one of the questions that we had, and you've shown it on some of your slides, and so I wanted to kind of touch base because you're clearly run into this. There's a difference between the budget used to improve things and the budget used to run things. So I'm going to put that in normal words, but I mean, you can turn that into any words you want, but you know that's true.
And that is the difference between growth and operations.
Yes. That said, you mentioned that your HR team, Foster Talent and Innovation Culture, has a zero budget for growth, but their normal work is to grow the company. So
that's a really good company. That's a really good, there's a really good question. And I agree with that, right? In this case, the HR capability gives us a strategic advantage. That's what that is. This assessment was done based on a strategic advantage, a marketplace. If I did an operational one, that would be totally different. So those are the different perspectives, just like you said, because people think differently. You got all these strategy people like me who get to stay in the clouds and ideate and then figure out how it's going to work. And then you've got operations people that have to keep the lights on who get really mad at us when we have ideas and don't think it through. This helps us think it through, by the way. Operations keeping the lights on. But what happens if operations is your strategic advantage? That's where you start rolling that in. Because in some companies, their operations are their strategic advantage. Not the amount of money they make, but how little they have to spend to make money. And if that goes away, they lose their competitive advantage. So you could see it in here. This was based on a market maturity. I couldn't do all three. I'd have to spend all day here. So anyways, does that make sense? Does this look way out of whack? Okay. Anybody else have any questions? You got mine. Trading off here. I'm so sorry.
So I'm curious a little bit on, does the way you structure your capability framework matter for this type of analysis? Because you're trying to break down the silos and, you keep it high level when you're trying to talk to your stakeholders so they don't get lost in the jargon, but how deep do you go? And like,
We're in, that's a great question, because you go as deep as you need to go is the best way. And that's horrible. That's like the lawyer saying, well, that depends, because that depends, right? But truthfully, each layer has their own capability language. Your engineers are going to want to know what level 3 and level 4 capabilities am I doing, am I way down here? Those generally can be tied to that golden thread on the value stream stage. That's operational, way down in. But in my whole career, I've never run across, only one executive that has said anything about a level 3 capability. They don't care. They don't. What they care about is customer management, information management, whatever your capability model is, that's where they're talking. So you want to stay there. Yeah, when I go to my engineers, I need to tell them exactly which decomposed, I tried to stay away from that word, decomposed capability that they are doing. I'll go back to football. I'll go back to the New England Patriots. Offense was their thing. That's their number one capability. What was the piece? What was their decomposed capability? Their quarterback. Now, I got to talk to the offensive coordinator, down a level, about his quarterback, not about his offensive capabilities. Let's talk about the quarterback. Or let's go into the processes, better known as playbooks. Maybe your playbook's wrong. It just depends on who you're talking to. That's the importance of understanding your audience. Understand your audience. I use those capabilities across the board, from level 1 to level 4, based on who I'm talking to. But know them and be able to explain them and how they apply to what you're doing.
I work in a company that has 20 operating units, each with different types of products.
Yep.
So how, what are your thoughts on how to manage this with that type of an organization?
I didn't get into that because I only have an hour. Because on that, there is a product-centric way to do this as well. What products support my business capabilities? I have 4 minutes. But you can take that same golden thread and align your products. Now I can see the full gamut. I didn't get there. It's a lot to go through how to do business architecture with products. But I personally, if I did it, would align my products to my value streams to see where those products are being impacted and flow it up through to the capability and to the strategic objective. So if I say I need to, it sounds so easy. By the way, I just made that sound a lot easier than it is. If I need to increase this strategic objective, there's my capability. What products now? I've made the connection all the way from products to strategic objectives through that web of information. Again, the most important thing here is it's all data. Once you've put that data in, I can leverage an internal AI tool to go, tell me which strategic objectives would be impacted if I change this product. That's the goal. That's the end game. The end game is to build this massive data set that I can simply make a query. If I change this product or product line, which strategic objectives could be impacted? All the way down. That is what they call, by the way, thanks to Wendy, strategy to execution. Up and down the line using data. Okay, one last thing, I got to give some credit here to the people, which is this. Influencers and people and where I took my information from. Those 2 books right there, the bottom one especially. the guild. That's where I was trained, or at least got certified. Wendy's organization, and Agora Insights, by the way, is where I got my certification as well. The other one I said earlier was storybook.io, how to make other people the hero. Yeah, it was fantastic. I call it the analytics mind to empathy, because I've been tested many times on so many different things, and empathy is not my thing, but I had to learn how to do it. And before I learned how to do it, I was just some guy coming in with all these ideas bursting in the room. This is what I did. I've got an S on my chest, and you need to listen to me. That's it. Only works if you are a consultant and you are executive backed. When you have to do it a different way, you need to use that empathy. I highly recommend all these reads. Anyway, that's what I got for you guys. Any other questions? I'm out of time. Any other questions? Of course, you guys can come find me. I can. To those? Okay. That was the easiest question I got. Can you go back one slide?
All right. So the next time he presents, make sure to ask him really hard questions. Thank you very much.